Do you ever wonder where your money goes at the end of the month? Doesn't matter if you're making $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 or more. At the end of the month, it can just feel like there's not enough left over. Well, the good news is you're not alone. And the better news is that I can show you in the next few minutes how to set up your budget so that you can take care of this and finally take control of your finances moving into the new year. I'm going to walk you through an actual situation of one of our clients so that you can see how we can go from chaos in the budget to automating everything so that now not only do they feel more empowered, but also found an extra $1,000 a month that they can put towards additional savings and paying off debt. So let's get started. So this couple, as you can see right here on the screen, is making about $150,000 a year. It's two-income household, so two working adults. They've got a young kid, and so they actually took a few minutes to go through their budget for us. What we can see here is broken down into the core strategies or the core areas that they addressed. They've got housing, they've got their auto payments, utilities, childcare, groceries, some retirement savings, additional insurance like health, life, and disability, debt payments towards their student loans, their entertainment and subscriptions, vacation savings, and their miscellaneous/buffer money. So what I'm going to show you right here is how we would build that inside of Sequence and how we help them build that. Because the biggest challenge that most people face is that they have 100% of their paycheck going into their checking account. Now you might say, well, why wouldn't you do that? Well, the challenge is that once you're pulling everything into one account, all of a sudden it becomes much more challenging to figure out how much money you have left over for fun money or to pay off debt or to put aside for savings. Because once you see it all in there, it's essentially one pot of money. What we like to do and what Sequence is here to help you with is to help send that money to the different accounts that are strategically labeled based on what you're trying to accomplish with it. Because if we can give every dollar a value in a mission for what it's supposed to accomplish, it's amazing how much that can help us both free up additional money, stop wasting on stupid things, and start saving and investing more in our future. So let's take a look at this. In this case, as always, we like to get started with creating an income source. Now you might ask, what's an income source? Well, in this case, it's just another checking account that we open up for you because we want to bring it into the system so that we can start to utilize these smart rules. Because again, we're trying to avoid sending money directly to the checking account. In this case, we're going to have spouse one. We're going to click the correct beneficiary because in this case, we want to make sure that the bank accounts match up with the correct name. So we're going to create that account right now. And again, fully FDIC insured bank account through Thread Bank, routing an account number, you're good to go. Now, since this is a two-income household with two spouses, we're going to create another income source. We'll call this spouse 2 income. And what we should be doing is clicking the correct beneficiary. In this case, we only have one on here, so you'll be selecting the other beneficiary's name. Again, creates a new account in their name so that that money can be routed directly to them. Now, the one piece here, once you're doing this, you have a couple different options. You can use our salary deposit switch, which is a great tool that integrates with a bunch of different HR systems so that you can actually pick your company and it'll automatically make that transfer so that money is not going directly to your checking account anymore, but being routed through the Sequence system so that we can start to use these smart rules. If your company doesn't come up there or you want to go old school, you can click this link right here. It'll automatically generate a PDF for you so that you can hand it to your HR team and then you'll be able to start using the Sequence system. Now, let's do the rest of the steps so that we can start to break out their finances into a Sequence type style. So the thing that I like to do next is I like to create a pod. A pod, you might be asking, what is it? It's just another bank account that we're able to build for you instantly. You could do all of this by going to your current bank, but we can do it in just a couple clicks and we can name this whatever we want and utilize our smart rules. So since this is a multi-income household, we like to pool all of that money into one single account so that we can route all of the rules based on what we're doing there. So we're going to call this the joint income fund, and we've got it set up right there. So now, the next step is connecting their existing accounts. What we do is connect our accounts. In this case, we want to connect their bank accounts. You can connect your investments, your liabilities, or if you have a landlord or other family members, you can always connect them manually. But what we can do right here is we can just use our process. If you've used any budgeting tool previously, you've gone through this process before. Plaid's a great tool in this space, allows us to instantly sync with countless banks, thousands of banks out there. You'll go through an authentication process that allows you to type in your username, password, and the rest of the information needed to authenticate you. You'll select the accounts that you want, and you probably can't see this right now because it's on my other monitor. But once you're done with that authentication process, the system will find the accounts, sync them in, and as you can see, it's adding them to our Sequence map right now. And now we can see that those accounts are synced and on our map. Now, the next step is, again, most people just send all of their money directly to their checking account. That's not what you want to do. There's a bunch of psychology around it and a bunch of math around it as well, as why that's not the most effective path. What I want to show you how to do is how to create individual accounts for each of the core spending areas that you have. And in this case, we've got their budget mapped out. So now I'm going to start creating pods for each of their core spending areas. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with housing. This is $2,500. That includes the mortgage, the property taxes, the insurance. We'll create and we'll send it over here. Next is the auto payments. And this is $750. And as you can see, I'm creating the specific name, and I like to put the amount of money going into it because it's really easy for identifying the rules later in the process. So we've got housing, we've got the auto payments. Next, we've got utilities. That is $300 a month. After that, we've got childcare. That is $1,200. After that, we've got groceries. And that is $800. Next, we've got their additional insurances. And that is $500 per month. Then we've got their entertainment and subscriptions. That is $250 a month. Next, we've got vacation savings, always a great one, $300. After that, we have miscellaneous children expenses and buffer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave those off just so that I can show you how to put them on the personal checking account as well, since most people will probably want to just spend it out of their normal checking account. But what we've got right here is we've got two income accounts, income sources. We've got a joint income fund where we'll pool that together. And we've got all of these other pieces, their core spending areas. And let me show you how easy this process is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag to create my rule. You got a couple different options. You can trigger by incoming funds or you can trigger by date. Most people do trigger by incoming funds because if you're a W-2 employee, you're getting paid bi-weekly, weekly, or monthly. You just want this to happen instantly whenever you get paid. If you have a flexible income or a variable income, like you're working on commission or there's reasons that you sometimes get paid more than others, you can actually use a trigger by date, which can be really helpful to help smooth out your income stream so that you can live more on a budget and start to sock away money for the leaner times or months where you're not making as much. But we're just going to trigger by incoming funds right now. 100% of this money is going to be sent to the joint income fund every single time they get paid. We'll do the same thing for spouse 2. Trigger by incoming funds, 100% done. So now any single time that these two get paid, what will happen is that money will be sent directly to the income fund. Now, the next step is about sending this money. Where do we want this money to go and when do we want it to go? So now what I need to do is just click and drag. We'll start with housing. So we're going to trigger by incoming funds. And instead of transferring 100%, what we want to do is we want to actually send a fixed amount. So in this case, we're going to send $2,500 to the housing account. Now what I can do is I can start adding additional rules. So transfer a fixed amount of $2,500 to the housing. I'm going to transfer a fixed amount of $750 to auto payments. I'm going to create another rule. And again, these are all just running in order. Transfer a fixed amount of $300 to the utilities. Create another rule to transfer a fixed amount of $1,200 to our childcare account. Another rule of fixed amount. In this case, we have groceries left. That's $800. Another rule, fixed amount of entertainment and subscriptions is $250. We need to add one fixed amount for the vacation savings, $300. And lastly, fixed amount to our insurances of $500. Click save, and we are good to go. So now it's created all of those rules for us. We have all the money going into the joint income fund, and we have individual accounts for housing, for auto payments, for utilities, for childcare, for groceries, for vacation savings. Each one of these are going to get the exact amount that they need so that we can pay for it each month. The great part about this is not only do we get a virtual debit card so we can actually just use this debit card to sync to our auto payments or our utilities or our childcare or our groceries, but it also comes with a routing number and account. So if you don't want to use the card, you just want to sync up to the account itself. Now you have the exact amount of money that you need every single month in there. And you might say, well, I want to have a little bit of extra money. Not a problem at all. You can always change any of these numbers to make sure that there is enough money in there each and every month. And you might say, well, why am I going to do this versus just paying it out of my checking account? Well, here's the issue. Once you've been able to effectively create all of these different budget line items for yourself, now you actually know the amount of money that is in your checking account is going to be the amount of money that you can actually spend. There are a few different pieces that we didn't include on here, like miscellaneous spending and buffer zone. But the key is now we can click on any of these rules, click a final rule, and we can transfer 100% of the remainder to our personal checking account. Or better yet, you could say 50% to the personal checking account, and we can add the remaining 50% to any of these other items, maybe our savings, or better yet, let me show you what you should be doing. Right now we have 50% going to the checking account of what's left over. And what we can even do is, if you don't have an emergency fund yet, this personal savings account, let's turn it into an emergency fund. What we can do now is we can click on this rule, we can add an account, and now we can have 50% of our money that's left over every single month going to the personal checking and 50% going to our emergency fund. It's as simple as that. We've set up this entire process so that it works just for you. One last piece that we didn't address, because they do have some student loans. And you might say, well, let's make sure that we're paying those. Again, not a problem at all. We can connect the account. We can go to our liabilities. We can click on any of the methods. Each provider has different accounts that it can connect to. So this will take you through a quick process to find your liabilities. And in this case, as you can see, we've got all of the liabilities that pulled up. And so here is their student loans. So we've been able to add that as well. And what we can do is simply click and drag a rule. We can trigger this by date because most liabilities are paid on a monthly basis. We're going to click monthly. This bill happens to be due on the 4th of the month. And so what we'll be doing is taking a look at all of our different options. And you'll see things like avalanche, snowball, if you're not familiar with it, minimum payment due, current balance. So in this case, minimum payment due or current balance are all potential options. And we will select minimum payment due, save, and done. Now here's the best part, because now that we've set up all of these different accounts and all of the rules, you can double check your work just to make sure that everything's going to work correctly. So all I need to do is actually click on one of the rules, and here's our whole list of rules that we set up, sending money to each of the specific accounts. And this little piece right here is rule simulations. When you click on that, what it allows you to do is actually mimic what will happen to see if there's any errors, but also to see how much money is left over. Because remember, we sent the remaining money, 50% to checking account so that they could pay for the miscellaneous items and their fund money, and half of it to their savings account. So in this case, let's say that we're going to start with 0 in that joint income fund. But since they make about $9,500 per month in take home pay, we're going to run that simulation. So what this does is it's going to correctly send $2,500 to the housing, the correct amount to the auto payment, to utilities, to childcare, groceries, each of these. And then the remaining money is actually $1,450 going to each of these accounts. That's a good amount of money. And in this case, that's where we were able to free up a boatload more money to both pay off debts and to start investing, because you might not want to be putting that much money into your checking account since you've already accounted for all of the other expenses. So what we can do now is actually create additional rules here if we want to set money aside for investing or for added debt payoff or for the vacation house. All of those different pieces, we can actually start to add in that money. And let me show you how easy it is. So let's say that they don't want $1,400 going to their personal checking just in fund money each month. So what they actually want to do is add a portion of that into their vacation fund. And we had 50 and 50, so actually change it to 30% to the checking, 30% to the emergency fund, and the remaining 40% to our vacation savings. Click save. So now when we run the balance with the incoming funds of $9,500, look at that. All of the money goes to the appropriate accounts, $870 for their fund money and miscellaneous spending throughout the month, $870 to their emergency fund, and $1,100 and change going to their vacation savings. Again, you can set up those rules however you want, but just want to show you this great rule simulation so you can double check your work and see how that money would flow and free up additional money to pay off the debt, invest, or to put it towards one of your other goals. And just like that, we've set up all of the accounts needed to go through every single piece on their budget every single month, with 50% being left over going into the personal checking account for their fund money, for eating out, for child activities, those pieces, 50% going to their emergency fund so that they're constantly building up additional money in there to their ideal of 3 to 6 months of savings. They're paying off the debt instead of the current normal of sending 100% of your money to your checking account and then having all of that money being pulled out of that single account so that you don't really know what's left over because the bills are coming out throughout the month. Now we've divided all of our money into the appropriate accounts and the appropriate amounts every single month so that we know exactly how much is left over for us and our savings goals, our debt goals, all of those pieces. So hopefully this helps. And again, if you want to sign up for Sequence, you can sign up below. We've got great deals running, especially for the first of the year. Take control of your money, make 2025 the best year yet when it comes to managing your finances.